Orphan boy is betrayed and becomes the strongest magician. When the world came into being, God created humanity and witches. God bestowed powers to the witches with the purpose of helping and guiding humans who didn't possess magical abilities. The witches gladly agreed and promised to help humans in the name of friendship. However, in the present day, things have taken a drastic turn. Humans have turned against witches and want them banished. As the witches prepare to be publicly executed, one of the witches curses the humans for their betrayal and she hopes humanity perishes before she's hanged. Meanwhile, in the Rhea Empire, in the Cavian region, in the middle of a desert, a young boy named Adenes complains about being tired after traveling for a long time. He is an apprentice to an ice witch named Chloe, who is rigorously studying a map to determine the next route they should take. Adenes takes a jibe at her and asks why she can't use magic to determine their location. Chloe dismisses him, reminding him her magic is not free, as she goes back to reading the map. Aegis takes out his smartphone, which tells them their precise location, much to Chloe's chagrin. She insists he refrain from using it or they'll be found. But Adenes explains that he made the smartphone himself, so it can't be used to track them because it uses free summoning magic. It is quite cost-effective, its latest technology can easily keep them safe from the army's radar. Adenes could have stopped here, but he decides to push Chloe's buttons by calling her methods lame, which doesn't go in his favor, and he ends up with a double bump on his head as a result of the smack. Suddenly, Adonis's face turns somber, and he asks Chloe why they have to be on the run. Chloe understands his frustration and explains that she is a witch, and after the change in people's attitude towards witches, living has become a struggle. She tries to cheer Adenes, and they soon resume their journey. It is imperative for them to find a place that is tolerant towards witches so they can reclaim living in peace, which once was the norm. Seeing Aegis adamant about studying under her, she pulls his leg and asks if he is into older women, making Adenes embarrassed and mad at her. Chloe giggles, and Adenes wonders how she can be happy in a horrific place like Rhea, where the witches are subjected to atrocities. Adenes's hatred towards the region is such that he believes they should eradicate humans with magic. Just then, something glistening at a distance catches their attention. A number of army men in high-speed vehicles approach them. It soon becomes clear they are there to eliminate Chloe, whom they regard as a fugitive witch. Aegis takes a defensive stance, but Chloe stops him as he is inexperienced with using magic and steps forward. She activates her ice magic, Alit, which procures her a staff that she uses to subdue the army men. Aegis, however, is not at all happy, and after Chloe is done, he angrily asks why she wouldn't let him use magic. Chloe explains he is inexperienced, but Adenes produces a humongous sword to show that he is competent. Chloe lets it slide, but Adenes confronts her and asks if his being a human is the reason she stopped him from using magic since she doesn't want Adenes to eliminate his kind. Adenes is brought to tears as he shares how frustrated he is because he is unable to protect Chloe. Moved by his words, Chloe embraces Adenes. Meanwhile, the news about the failure to eliminate the fugitive witch reaches the 23rd Emperor of the Rhea Empire, Jelf. He gets irked and orders the army to bring him Chloe. Unbeknownst to the duo, one of the machines that Chloe froze activates, and after confirming their location, creates a portal to teleport them to the capital palace. Chloe and Adenes start floating, and before they are transported, they clasp each other's hands. At the capital palace, Gild addresses the citizens of the region and provokes his audience against the witches. Chloe is shocked that the witches were able to complete the physical transfer over such a long distance and within such a short period. Adenes comforts Chloe and reassures her, and we get to know her name as Chloe. We see a space station hovering in space, confirming the extra-dimensional transfer of Q to the capital Central Plaza. The Central Capital Plaza comes into view with the Emperor addressing his subjects. Modestly, he continues by telling them how witches and magicians have protected them from everything, every natural disaster or physical occurrence that could bring them harm, and his gratitude for their service. His tone then becomes serious, and he expresses how unjust it is that he and his subjects have to worship these witches all because they possess magic, which is alien to human knowledge. Then he reveals his grand fleet of airships and hot air balloons, which protected the airways of the entire metropolis from any form of attack. They have huge automatic trains which traverse the entirety of the metropolis, and a tool of absolute power and wisdom, the smartphone. He is genuinely pleased with the revolution they have undergone by imbuing technology into their everyday life, what he calls the gear technology, and the fact that they do not need to rely on witches for their safety, protection, and development anymore. The Emperor then declares war on every witch and sorcerer to prove that they are the supreme leaders of the world and not the witches. The Emperor steps off the podium as his partner commends him for his well-spoken speech. A green flash appears from the skies and strikes the ground just below the podium where the Emperor was giving his speech. It was a wide circular area, and we saw Agus and Chloe hunched over right where the green flashed just a few moments before. The Emperor calls Chloe by name, apparently expecting her to make an arrival. While the Emperor looks thrilled, Chloe and Adenes don't look too pleased to be in his presence. Adenes beckons on Chloe to run while he buys her some time. He brings out a quill, but he is quickly overwhelmed by the Emperor's officers. He struggles to get out of their grip, but to no avail. At this point, we find out Adenes is her apprentice, and he is actually human while Chloe is a witch. Chloe rises to her feet and addresses the Emperor as the king of humans, threatening him to let go of her apprentice if she values the lives of his human audience. At this point, we see some mana essence gathering up around her, and a huge blue energy ball appears at the top of her staff just behind her. Chloe confesses that she has let the human live so far just out of pity, but now she was about to destroy all that they love and care about as she charges up her attack and launches it. Suddenly, the blue energy ball breaks up and decomposes. Shocked and wide-eyed, Chloe looks on in disbelief. The Emperor addresses her, telling her how foolish she was to underestimate the power of technology they have acquired, and a magic photon nullifier comes into view. The audience is really pleased with the nullification of Chloe's magic, laughing and jeering at her. Agus also tries out his magic as he is held down, but it was also nullified, so nothing happens. The Emperor walks up to Chloe, grabs her garment, and rips it to pieces. He then lands a resounding slap which sends her tumbling to the ground, telling her a witch who can't use magic is a mere woman. Then the audience took this opportunity to take some pictures of the infamous witch while making rude remarks at her. Agus manages to break free from the grip of the Emperor's guards, but he is brought down by the guards again before he can reach her. The Emperor orders his guards to kill Agus, and at this point, Chloe bows her head to him. She pleads for her apprentice to be left out of her humiliation, claiming he is innocent since he is human. She claims she took him as a slave against his own will. She kept begging for his life to be spared while profusely shedding tears. Adenes tries his magic again, vowing to kill all humans present, but the Emperor, not paying him any mind, raised a gun to Chloe's head. She pushed her head to the muzzle, accepting her fate. Agus was now shedding tears as well, wondering why fate dealt them such a bad hand. Chloe addresses him and tells him thank you for everything. There's a flashback to when she picked him up as a small starving child on the streets. Chloe approached him, she offered to help him get up, and he accepted. Suddenly he snaps out of his recollection at the sound of the lady being shot in her head by a man wearing a white suit. The Emperor turns back to leave, and his soldiers go all out shooting Chloe with their guns. Agus is in too much shock to speak. Gathered is a crowd watching and filming this. In a rage, he yells at them to stop. He begins to remember all the times they were together and how truly happy he was. He watches her fall onto the ground as he cries his eyes out. The crowd cheers out to the man in white as he stands in front of them, feeling glorious. His guard walks toward Chloe and chops off her head using an axe. The Emperor picks up her head and raises it to the crowd as they cheer, while Agus cries profusely. 10 years later, in a prison camp in the Rhea Empire, children are chained up. 2 girls fight over food, and a girl named Duca tries to calm them down by offering them her loaf of bread. But one of the girls just snatches it from her, asking her to stay away from their dispute. Just then, a girl named Anna walks up to her to find out if she is okay and why she gave her food. Duca just avoids the question playfully, telling her that she's okay. They sit together, and Anna tells Duca about how generous she is. She begins to cry, saddened by the fact that they were told if all witches were dead, the world would be a better place, but they still fight themselves even after all the technology was invented. Duca cheers her up with some puppet show, telling her they'll be fine no matter what, and they both giggle. Sadly, just then, some guards come, yelling a prisoner's number and asking him to get up, but no one responds in fear. The girls whisper that this was the fourth time someone had been called and taken and wasn't returned back to the holding unit. They both stared at the guard in fright, wondering who had been called upon. Just then, Duca looks at their tag to find out that it was Anna being called. She quickly exchanges their tag, takes Anna's number, and responds to the guard. He asks her to follow him. Meanwhile, Anna stares at them as they both walk away with tears gushing from her eyes in shock that Duca is sacrificing herself for her. She fears the outcome, knowing fully well that Duca will not be returning. Duca is standing between two guards, being interrogated by Chief Warden Popol. He asks her to take off her clothes to confirm there was no infliction on her. He was about to give her to the Lord as a service girl. She's shocked at his request but looks around to see the bodies of other girls and sadly accepts her fate. The warden goes on, ramping up how his place is run by the taxes of people, so he has to serve them well. He grabs Duca forcefully, taking a photo of her with him while he's on his phone about sending the photo to HR. She bites his finger and grabs the phone from him. Papal screams out loud, telling the guard to go after Duca as she runs away from the room. While running, Duca tries to unlock every cell, releasing everyone but realizes that it requires voice recognition to carry out that task. She tries multiple times in frustration but is still unable to unlock the cells. She then begins to imitate the chief warden, and to her surprise, successfully unlocks the cells. She screams at the girls to run as the gates open. There's a commotion as the cells open, and the prisoners begin running. The guards are unable to control the situation, so they call for backup. Duca runs towards giant golden doors and taps the phone to unlock it. The door opens, revealing a room with a steel containment. As she stares at the containment, some guards catch her, hitting her to the ground. They are trying to control the situation by preventing the doors of the containment from opening, but it is too late as the door opens. We then see a man covered in bandages releasing himself from several chains. He's Adnis, who's been confined for the past 10 years and now wants revenge. Watch this next video.